What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of the new Netflix original movie, The Woman in the Window. Now, this film, of course, is directed by Wright. Now, before we begin, if you like this channel, awesome, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome, hit the like button, as well as commenting below any video to watch, including this one. Okay, so just to let you know, this movie, Woman in the Window, since it's already been released, I'm going to make this a small portion non-spoiler review and then a larger portion spoiler review because I actually want to talk about this whole plot point and twist and all that stuff in this movie. So in this movie, we have a character named Anna Fox, who of course is played by Amy Adams. She's an individual that has agoraphobia, which is basically she has problems with going outside. She gets very stressed. She's had, some really bad mental issues, and basically it keeps her from basically talking to people, interacting with somebody, and therefore like food gets delivered, she throws like an envelope under the door, and one day there's a family called the Russell family that moves in next door, or at least across the street, and she's introduced to this character named Ethan, which is the son. And Ethan's like, he's this very weird kid. He actually reminds me a lot of Joaquin Phoenix, and in the process she also meets Jane Russell, who's played by Julianne Moore. Now, as we know from the trailer, there is a kind of plot thing that happens where we see Julianne Moore's character get killed, and therefore the Anna Fox, the Amy Adams character, starts going on a kind of a mystery quest similar to Rear Window to figure out what exactly is going on. Why is this character, who's played by Gary Oldman, who plays Alistair, so angry? And it almost seems like he killed his wife, and now we have a character played by Jennifer Jason Leigh who comes into the mix, who's now Jane Russell, and she is very much trying to pull off a persona that she is Jane Russell. But what happened to Julianne Moore? That's when a couple cops, come into the mix. One is played by Tyree Henry, and so on and so forth. And then on top of that, we have Wyatt Russell playing David, who is Amy Adams' tenant, who seems to be part of this mix, and so on and so forth. And so therefore, it's basically a movie about Amy Adams' character and what is real, what is not. Like I said, it's very much in the Hitchcockian thriller aspect about individuals who think they see what they see, but is it exactly what they think they see? Does the ending kind of justify the means and stuff like that? So it's very much leaning into what is real and what is not, and so on and so forth. So it's very much a psychological thriller. Once again, written by Tracy, who plays the doctor in this movie, who is an amazing Broadway play writer, as well as an actor, writer, and stuff like that. And then we have Wright, who of course directed like Atonement, Darkest Hour, and Hannah, and so on and so forth. So with that said, we're talking about the synopsis. This is a movie, like I said, I was really anticipating. It was in the top 10 films most anticipated for 2020 and 2021. Pandemic pushed out, there was reshoots and all that good stuff. And it's a movie that, like I said, when it comes to Hitchcockian thrillers or movies that are being very much in that realm of space when it comes to those types of thrillers, I expect a good level of direction. I expect a good level of writing. I expect a good level of suspense, which this movie does have a little bit of that. But I also expect a movie where you're not going to see the twist coming. You're not going to see the end coming. And it's not going to be predictable, which is what was always great about Alfred Hitchcock's movies, is there was always an era of he's always one step ahead of you. So after watching this movie, the sad thing I can say about it is not only did I not like this movie, but I was always one step ahead of the director and writer. So I knew where this movie was going. I knew what to expect. I knew where it was, where it was going to play out. And therefore, the movie just became a complete slog. It became a complete mess. It was not well directed. For a Tracy Letts film, it was not very well written. The characters are boring and sluggish, and they are tropes of other characters that are much more interesting. The fact that Gary Oldman is once again playing an angry person is just, you've seen it before. The switch between the Jane Russell and how that eventually affects the ending is not that great. Even Amy Adams is just over the top and silly. Her agoraphobia stuff is just like, whatever, I don't care. When Tyree Henry comes to the mix, I'm like, okay, this movie's just completely gone over my head. It's completely washed away, and it's just a complete nonsensical movie. It really is. It was amazing that this movie had so many interesting concepts and ideas, and even though it was borrowing from some famous movies, it still kind of was trying to be an interesting thriller while being a homage and stuff like that, and it just completely just doesn't work at all. And that's what makes it so sad when you watch a movie like this, because you're so excited, and maybe my anticipation was too high for this movie that what I was getting was not what I was expecting, and what I end up watching was just a complete downtrodden of a film. And yeah, it's just not a very good movie. It really isn't. I don't think any of the set pieces are interesting. You know, the fact that it takes place in one house really kind of hampers it a little bit. But when it comes to agoraphobia and, being locked up in a place, it should be much more interesting. But yeah, just overall, I just think everybody in this movie is just completely miscast, is a mess. And for a film that's written by Tracy Letts, who's very well known for doing plays, because this feels very much like a play, it doesn't feel like a movie that he had any idea what he wanted to do with it, even though it's also based off a book. So overall, for my non-spoiler review, I didn't like it. The reason I'm so vague is because I want to talk about it in spoiler terms. So with that said, let's go off non-spoiler and talk about spoilers. And so this movie really frustrates me in no aspect, because I saw Ethan and what his capabilities were coming from a mile away. And the reason I say that is he comes in as a kid who's very much a young version of Joaquin Phoenix, and how he acts and how he kind of responds to everything. So there's something kind of off about him. And when you see him in in the different rooms of the house and across the street, when Jane Russell, who ends up being the mother that Alistair had an affair with, or some of that nature, she gave birth to Ethan, who was a Julianne Moore character who's under by a different name, there's something kind of strangely off about her too. So there's something kind of weird and kind of odd going on with the character. And when Ethan is revealed to be the killer of his mother, as well as the kind of person who's causing all these events, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because if it's a character that has been known, it's similar to So I Married an Axe Murderer, where the main character, the main woman's sister was the murderer. I'm sorry if that's spoilerish, but when you get into something like that, and when you see the mannerisms, and he goes off and claims he's going off to New Hampshire, he's going off to a prison or something like that, it just I felt like that was a whole kind of stupid trope of some sort. Didn't make any sense. The fact that Ethan was just a killer, it led into trying to be very Hitchcockian with the idea of trying to throw you off and stuff like that. And it just doesn't completely work. When you see the Julianne Moore character up in the window, she's being thrown around and stuff like that, and you see her stabbed, but you never see the son. You think you see him down in the living room, but then you see Alistair and her having an argument, but then you were supposed to think that Alistair killed her, but you don't see Ethan anywhere, and it leads to too many clues and too many kind of pinpoints to him being the killer, because it's just the way it's kind of formed and kind of positioned. It just makes it really easy to kind of pinpoint who is going to be the bad guy in this movie. And there's clues and stuff like that leads to possibly David or Alistair, but it's too easy, and it makes it too simple in the end point of this movie. And on top of that, you find out that, of course, Amy Adams' character was once married to the Anthony Mackie character, and there was a car accident. So the agoraphobia was kind of it was made to be that pinpoint where it was supposed to throw you off, but you always kind of figured that there was something truly off about her, truly wrong. You never saw her family. You actually saw him once in the video, the Anthony Mackie character, and it just leads to too many suspectal points where you're just like, okay, there's more to her. She claims she's agoraphobic, but there's no real kind of justification of why she's agoraphobic. What is the reasoning and the ideas behind that? And you find out that, of course, she's been locked up in this house because she was in an accident and she killed her, husband and daughter. And when you get to that point, and it's the main woman detective, well, that kind of stuff is just not really that interesting. It becomes more of we're going to make it a interesting twist that comes 40 minutes before the movie ends, and then it just makes you think that she's just crazy, and in the end that she's really not, because if especially at the very beginning of this movie, when you see the whole point, you see Rear Window on the TV screen, and if you watch that really closely, is the point where the murderer is attacking the Jimmy Stewart character. So that is a complete dead giveaway that this movie is not happening in her head, that is really happening in real life and stuff like that. So the murderer, like I said, comes into the movie very quickly into the movie, and if she's an agoraphobic, how is she letting these people in? And it doesn't make any sense. So like I said, you can kind of see the pinpoints of Ethan, how he's acting, how he's a lot of the stuff that's brought on to, how he's murdered people probably was brought on by his father, which was explained that they're under arrest and stuff like that. But I think that's what just bothers me the most about this movie is when you see it, it seems so simple, and so they want to try and fool you into thinking, oh, it's this other person, but you know all along there's going to be this one specific person, especially when you've seen these movies a billion times before, and you know it's always that one person that they want you to at least expect, but it's always that same person. So that's why when you look at a character like Ethan and you look at his portrayal and stuff like that, if you see the signs, if you see the kind of concepts and theories behind who he is, he's a very downtrodden kid. He's very feels like he's very abused and stuff like that. And then, like I said, he's murdered a whole bunch of people, which doesn't make any sense, you know. So it just overall, just everything that keeps happening in this movie and the way it's portrayed, and it feels like it could be so much better if it had been, you know, something like Shutter Island or something that truly kind of played into the mystique of what they are trying to lean on, which is be a thriller from like a Hitchcockian era. But when they do stuff like that, it doesn't work at all. So overall, like I said, that's why I was not a big fan of the movie. The concept, the idea, and the execution are 100% played out by the time you get to the 40-minute mark, because then you see the whole car crash, and you see everybody knows about the car crash, and then you find out that Ethan's been in the house for a week, and like, where's he been staying? I guess at underneath the David's house. And then on top of that, I'll leave it with this: you have the Wyatt Russell character David, and he's been sleeping, or at least he slept with the Jane Russell, the Julianne Moore character. It's like, really? So you're gonna try and play into him being the possible murderer? It just, ah, man, I can't believe this movie is in my anticipated list of the year. It's so frustrating to watch this movie. It has so many great concepts and ideas, and just overall just doesn't know how to execute them. So the Ethan stuff was stupid, and it kind of completely ruined the movie for me. And that's just a bad script writing and a bad direction and bad acting overall. So overall, didn't like the movie. Probably a lot of people probably liked it more than I did, and that's perfectly all right. But I had, you know, overall I just didn't like it. So, but that'll do it. That'll be my take on Woman in the Window. Like I said, it could be better, but definitely wasn't. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of the film. Did you like it? Did you not like it? All the good stuff. You know, tell me what you think. But otherwise, hit that subscribe button to join my channel. Hit the notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, see you guys in the next video. Peace out.